All right, Grasshoppers, back by popular demand. And I do mean popular demand. Robert Pizzini, Bob Pizzini, my friend from Virginia Beach. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, Tom. How are you today?
Very good, very good. So last time we did the show, you asked me who's going to win the Stanley Cup. I'd like to take a lot of credit for it, but I really don't think it was that big of a prediction, really. You know, it wasn't like I predicted the Giants are going to beat the New England Patriots many years ago or something. So.
Well, it was good. You predicted they'd win and by more than one goal, which
it actually could have been a lot worse than it was too. Really, they really outplayed it pretty bad. So,
yeah,
we got the big draft coming up tomorrow. So, what are your Bruins going to be doing tomorrow? You know, or what?
Yeah, I haven't kept up or kept an eye on them. I haven't talked to Frank and the boys in a while.
Right, that's right too. And one guy they may lose there is that Krug, right? Young defense.
They've been talking about. I'm surprised they had him for all of this season. COVID probably had something to do with that. They've been talking about him going away even last year.
He's one of those guys, especially with Chara getting older. I'm kind of amazed that they don't want to try to keep him.
For sure. He's great, of great value, I think. Yeah.
But I think everybody now is probably going to be money too, right? Because of the flat cap and the uncertainty of what's going on in the future. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, footnote on Chara. I meant to mention this last week too. If I'm not mistaken, he's the only player in the NHL that does not wear a visor on his helmet. That's he's the oldest player in the NHL, and that's something that was grandfathered. Basically when they mandated the visors.
I remember when the visor first started coming in. So I started in 1980. I think Ray Bourque was one of the first guys to wear it too. I think he might have got an eye injury or something, and he started wearing the visor. And it was like I put it on. I got a hit in the eye at one point, and I put the visor on. I kept it on for a while, and I even had a coach come to me, and he says, "So I guess you're changing your style of play." Like I wasn't going to be as physical or tough anymore. So, but that's all changed now. It's just an accepted thing. Although
Chara said the same thing. He didn't like that visor for fighting purposes.
Yeah, it's weird to see guys fighting now with a visor on because basically they get the opponents just punching the visor. So
yeah,
things have changed. All right, well, great to have you back on. We had a great conversation last time about leadership and everything, and we're going to try to make this a regular event. We got a lot to offer. I think you and I feel the same way about a lot of the things here. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today was, people come up with a plan, and why do people follow through? Let's say they've got plan A. I like the old saying where said, "What's plan B?" Well, plan B is finishing plan A, right? It's and why do some people not being able to follow through a plan? Why do some people have New Year's resolutions? They maybe keep them for a month or 2 months and then they fall off. What's your theory on that?
It's a couple of things. One is I think that. Sorry, I got a sound thing there. I think that people are unrealistic sometimes in those plans. And so it's very easy to get discouraged very quickly. And then another component of it is anything worth doing. Usually you have to plant seeds and you have to cultivate, you have to till that soil and cultivate those seeds. And it takes time for those seeds to sprout. So, anything that's worth doing takes time. And I think today, especially, people aren't programmed to view things over the long term, so to speak.
Right. There's a saying came from Tony Robbins uses it all the time. You got to be ready to burn the boats, right? And I think it came from a military saying where way back in long ago wars, if you're going to go to an island and you come by boat, then I guess it was a story that a captain burnt the boat or whatever. So the guys, like his people, they had no choice but to win the battle.
They're committed at that point.
So that's part of it too, right? I mean, I know for me, when I first retired from playing, I got in the agent business. And, of course, being an agent, being a player, I thought everybody's going to love me all of a sudden. Well, that wasn't the way it was. I'm going to people and they're saying no to me. But I think I guess there's a little bit of fear there too. I couldn't turn back, right? I had a young family. We didn't, back when I played, we didn't make a bunch of money. So I had to make it work. And I think there's don't you think there's a little bit of training there too? Like you've trained your mind, like you've done things over time where it is hard to do, but you fought through it. You know that you can get through it.
Yeah, for sure. Having the right mindset is the first part of really getting anything done, anything significant or anything of any great value. And then you're making a commitment. You're saying, okay, I know this is not going to be easy, but I know that there's tremendous value in taking this thing on. And I'm going to commit the time and the resource and the energy. When I put my business together, when I put iFly together, I budgeted. I thought it would take me 2 years from inception to shovel in the ground. So I budgeted 3 years, and it actually took 6 years.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, 6 years to opening, 6 years from good idea to opening. But at year 3, we just kept making progress, and we weren't progressing on the timeline that I initially projected, but we were still progressing. And as somebody who's run a marathon and completed a graduate degree, you can't see the finish line when you start those things, but it's there. And if you just keep moving, eventually you're going to see it.
So you brought up a good point. Like I know you well enough, I think, to say this, that once you put your mind to it, you have to give that 100% effort, right? That's part of it. If and you can't cheat yourself. If you're going into it and you say, well, I'm going to give my best effort. Well, what's your best effort? Your best effort is doing whatever you have to do to get it done. That's half the battle. Sure, you're going to fail. If you don't put your heart into it, you got a good chance of failing. You really have to pour your heart into it, right?
Yeah, there's no question about it, and there, and you have to create the atmospherics for that. You have to create that environment, and you have to reinforce it, and hopefully you have reinforcement around you. All great things that have been done have usually been done by groups of people rather than the individual. And a marathon is something different, but to take on a big endeavor, you really have to have a network of support that is keeping you energized.
So it's no different than being in the military, right? You go off on a mission, and we were talking about, I'm going to post some videos later on. I had a fun day yesterday with some Navy SEALs, and we went through some stuff. But, I know you guys really believe that, you have to have that team together, and that, you've got this big, let's say you've got a big war to win. Well, you're not going to win the war in one day. It's that first task, right, that you've got to complete, and you do that as a team, right?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And again, staying with something for the long haul usually requires a team, a support network, a group of people that are going to get you through it. And, my military experience, that burn the boats is a great analogy. And it's surprising, 26 years in the Navy, and I don't think I've heard that before, but you're committed. You get downrange, you get in my case in Iraq, in that war zone, and some other operations that I've been on. There's no turning back. There's no, I don't want to do this anymore. There's no, I quit. And so you're committed. And you touched on it earlier, when you're committed like that at least in an armed conflict, for example, you're committed to the people, to the person to the left of you and the person to the right of you. And I'll go as far as to say you're committed to the people back behind the wire as well. That 21-year-old female admin clerk from Brooklyn, she's my teammate too. If she doesn't do what she's supposed to do, it's going to have an impact on me. So the team is deep and wide.
Right. And sure, there's lots of times too. I know for me, coming up as a young kid, growing up in Canada, I was always dreaming of playing in the National Hockey League. Well, everybody dreams of playing in the National Hockey League. So I had a lot of
Canadian kid does. Yeah.
I had a lot of people tell me, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. And I don't know where I got it from, but I just never listened to anybody. I guess in some ways that's a bad thing, right? That you're so stubborn that it can be aggravated to people. But as far as achieving a goal, right?
I think it's a great thing, because I've had people tell me that even with my business and when I first became a Navy diver and then went to Navy EOD school, explosive ordnance disposal. And for all the grasshoppers out there, let me just clarify everything. So Navy SEALs, they jump out of airplanes and they have diving techniques, and they jump out of helicopters and fast rope and rappel. They do that to get to the target. Usually when they get to the target, they're either going to kill bad people or do a hostage rescue. Navy EOD, we do all the same. Those are called mobility skills. We do all the same mobility, but when we get to the target, it's to cut the red wire, cut the blue wire, right? But the training that I went through and the training that my teammates go through, to your point of people tell you, it's challenging and you might not be the right person to do that. For me, like you, I'm stubborn. I look at the people that are out there and I go, if they can do it, I can do it. Now, within reality, right? I'm not going to be an astrophysicist anytime soon.
Well, you never know. But I'll tell you what, like I think we talked this last time too. It's funny, like I accomplished things earlier in my life, like I was in my 20s and everything, by making the NHL. But like I really think now I've learned so much more. Like I think it was just the blind stubbornness when I was younger to just go do it. Now I feel like I've done more to study my mind and how my mind and body works together and all those things. And I think that's the important thing for people out there to see, that listen, even if you're not where you want to be right now, you can get there. Right. And it's like you're saying, it's having the goals, having a plan, having people around you to help you get there.
Yeah, and there's three things that I think are critical to achieving your objective. One is education, two is experience, and three is training. And all three of those result in what I consider to be very effective leadership. I read in a book a while ago that education without experience is merely philosophy, and experience without education can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I firmly believe that. There's this right mix of experience, education, and training that prepares you for the task or prepares you to lead efforts, ultimately.
Yeah. And two things that I've really learned too is if people need to realize, first of all, life is not fair and that you are not perfect. So on that road to completing getting your goal, accomplishing your goal, you're going to make mistakes. Bad things are going to happen to you, right? And that's that time where like you're saying, your education and your experience and your training, knowing that you're prepared for this, you really need. So instead of sitting there and feel sorry for yourself when something's happened, you're more likely to get up quicker and now get forward and keep moving forward on the next task, right?
Yeah. So in the military, we call that resiliency. It's getting kicked, it's getting beat down, but you get back up and you get after it. And it's not just out on the battlefield, it's the family, it's our Gold Star family members. Unfortunately, they have to be resilient. Their loved one made the ultimate sacrifice for the country. And now this family is left to pick up the pieces of their lives and move on. And that's being resilient. And resiliency is a key trait of any successful person. Walt Disney went bankrupt, 3 times or something like that. And you just keep going and keep going. And you hear these success stories all the time of people who failure for most people, if you're thinking the right way, is a learning process. Thomas Edison and the light bulb, it's not failure, it's learning.
Yeah, I saw videos, there's a whole series of those people that are successful and that how many times they failed before they ultimately didn't they say Walt Disney wasn't creative enough or something, wasn't he? He got fired on a job because he wasn't creative enough.
Yeah, got fired, got turned down for loans. He just stuck with it.
Yeah. So, but there's that fear factor too, right? Let's say you're a dad and a husband and you got a family and need to pay the bills. Well, in your case, it took 6 years. There had to be times there where you were, I hate to say it like this, but there was some fear there too, right? Geez, I'm going to be able to pay my bills here.
Yeah, there's an amount of fear for sure, but that amount of fear is necessary in my opinion. If there was no fear, then you're almost blind or you're not aware of the hazards that are out there. And so there's definitely fear, but in my case, it's managed. And, I'll never forget that scene from Star Trek way back in the day when, Captain Kirk was on some planet and they said, we can take all your fear away. We can have you living this peaceful life. And he screams, I need my fear. I want my fear. I need my fear.
Yeah, that's great. That's good stuff.
Yeah, you got to have it. You got to manage it, and it keeps you on edge. It keeps you on target. It keeps you on point.
And that's where you say too, like that experience. Like when you first get scared or something like that, the first reaction is like, "Oh God, I don't know if I can make through this now." But once you've experienced things and you have known that you can conquer that fear or that you can get through it, it's easier to do, right? So it's kind of understanding that. I think I told the story last time. It was kind of a stupid story about being the first guy in the dorm room, in college.
Yeah, I remember it.
Weird that was a big thing to me, right? But it was almost like it was an important step. It's just so funny that it sticks out in my mind so much from times in the past that like fighting through that fear, like, oh man, that was a big deal. When you look back, it really wasn't a big deal, but at that time, it was something that I had to get through it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that takes so many different forms. As the owner of a company with 40 people, I've had to let people go from time to time. Right. And I don't know if it's fear. It's something that you don't want to do. You don't want to have to fire people, but when it's necessary, it's necessary. And in a couple situations in particular, when I finally pulled the trigger, when I finally let those people go, it was a weight off my shoulders. It was a weight off the shoulders of everybody else in the company, to the point to where they're saying, "Hey, what took you so long to do that?"
One of the big things for me too is when following a plan is having a list. When I first got into the agent business, when I was retired, I didn't know at the time, but I ultimately worked for IMG. Mark McCormick had started IMG. He's really like the first agent that really ever was. He represented Arnold Palmer. And he wrote a book, like a couple of books, 110% Solution and Things They Don't Teach at the Harvard Business School. And one of the things that was simple, but one of the things he talked about was writing out a list. And similar to what you just touched on, he said that you put the most difficult things, the least that you want to do, at the top of the list. So you don't put them at the bottom and say, geez, I'll get to it later. You put the most difficult things at the top and get it done. For me, that's really made a big difference. It's just like you said, you've got this thing that's bothering you. You got to fire this employee. And you delay, and it's human nature. I mean, it's not like I'm perfect with it now. It's like you still kind of fall back to that. I really don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt that person or whatever it is.
Right.
So once you're done, though, you then realize I should have just done it quicker. Right. I wasted all of that time, and I didn't worry about it, right. Just get it done.
No, it's true. I was working with a client a few days ago, last week, and we're talking about the history of some of his employees, and he said, we hung on to this guy for as long as we could, and we finally had to let him go. And I said, why'd you hang on to him so long? And he said, I still ask myself that question. It's over a year since they let this guy go. And he's like, why did we hang on to him for so long? And there was a fear factor. There was just all the unpleasantness of it. And good people try and find workarounds, and eventually you just run out of options.
I think that's not just the business world too, right? It's your personal life as well, right? Whether you're in a bad relationship, or you should be telling somebody that you love them, or it goes both ways. It isn't necessarily the bad, the good. It's it's that waiting around with things instead of just doing it. If you really believe, I guess that's my question is, like, especially when you don't have the experience, how, like in that case with that business owner, how does he know? How does he get to the point that he knows this is the right decision to make, especially if he doesn't have a ton of experience?
Yeah, when you see the impact it's having on everybody else, and that's literally what happened with him. The person that they wound up firing, this guy was good at covering his tracks, so to speak, and but the evidence was there, and he saw the impact on everybody else. And people who are lower in the food chain, so to speak, they're not likely to sound off or make trouble or make waves, but they're the ones who are being negatively impacted by, in this case, very poor leadership. Right. And you see it, and at some point you're convinced, hey, for the good of everybody else in this organization, I've got to make this decision.
Right.
And in one of my situations where we let somebody go, I had no choice. This guy came in and basically he was drunk on duty, so to speak, and it was egregious, and everybody saw it. And if I wouldn't have acted, I would have been the irresponsible one. I would have been the one where everybody's saying, well, hey, boss, what's wrong with you?
But does happen though, right? I mean, there's lots of people that don't make that decision right away. They see the problem, and again, even in a relationship, right? Like a woman being abused or whatever physically, and you see a lot of women will stay around, and you kind of wonder sometimes, like, what? It doesn't necessarily even have to be physical abuse. It could be.
Go for bread and a gallon of milk.
Yeah, it's Donald Trump calling me. Calling me from the hospital.
Exactly.
I do the cooking video every Sunday, if you've seen it or not, and I post up all these pictures in my kitchen. So I had Donald Trump, so I got an actual mask and taped the mask to his picture, like he was in the mask, stupid stuff. It was funny, but in relationships and stuff too, you see that, you're not comfortable in a relationship, bad things are happening, and again, I don't want to go to the extreme with the physical abuse, but why do people stay in there like that and hang in there that long?
It depends on how deep and how wide and who's all going to be impacted by different things. I'm certainly no relationship expert. I'm happily married, and although I do have what I call a previous life where I tried to stick around and make it work, but it reached a point to where it's like, this is just not going to work. And so it was time to move on. And people got to recognize that. They got to recognize when it's just time to move on. And, a woman in a relationship where they're being abused, that's difficult. I think oftentimes don't think they have many options, right. Which is unfortunate, for me, whether it's in business or friendships or other associations and relationships, I always try and have options. Now, not with my marriage. My only option with my marriage is to
Plan A.
Is plan A. That's right. That's right. So, but everything's great there. But in business and in other things, you got to have options. You always have to have options.
So I joke around. I say, what is plan B? Is finish plan A. But in talking to you guys in the military, particularly, have to go on missions and plan. Your goal you'll never deviate from your goal. Like your goal is to get under that ship and disarm a bomb and whatever it is. So you need to get that done. Now you've got a plan to get that done, but along the way in that plan, something may change, right? So you now need to, although your goal still remains the same, you now need to make a change in your plan.
Yeah, and that's what I call deviations. So without a plan, nobody knows what's going on, and you have no sense of direction. With a plan, you know when you're deviating from it, either intentionally or unintentionally. So just like a ship that might get off course by 1 degree or 2 degrees or 3 degrees, 50 nautical miles later, they're significantly off course. And it's the same thing in a game plan, for a hockey game, or in my case, your forecast for the year, your business plan for the year, how you're going to execute your business, or your personal strategies in life. Hey, this year I'm going to read a book a month, or I'm going to learn how to ballroom dance, which I actually did a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was for a charity, and a year before that, if you would have asked me if I was ever going to be a ballroom dancer, I would have said hell no.
So come on, you still do it now?
Yeah, well, not last August, but the August before was when this big charity competition. They call it the Hampton Roads Dancing with the Stars, right? Oh. So, and star, by the way, is somebody who can write a check and make a contribution. But it's a great fundraiser for a great cause. I had great fun doing it. Giant step outside of my comfort zone, and I took that step for two reasons. One is to support and promote this charity as somebody who really values the community that I live and work in. But number two, to show my teammates and my team members that, hey, I challenge you to get outside your comfort zone, and I'm walking the walk. I'm taking a big step out of my comfort zone, and it gave them something to rally around. We all worked towards the event. They all came and watched it, and it was pretty fun.
That is pretty cool, though, right? The whole concept that now you're getting out of your comfort zone, right? Like I think back, and I don't know where. Like I guess it came from my father a lot too. We had the farm, and I was like 15 years old, and that's all he ever knew. And he just was tired of farming, so he sold the farm, became a firefighter. And I didn't think too much of it at the time, but making that career change, a lot of people don't like making career changes like that or stepping out of the comfort zone. Even if they're not totally happy in the life that they've got, they'll just continue on that life. I told a story before, but when I played with the Rangers, early 80s, they had a program. Most of the guys were, college educated or whatever. They were all playing junior hockey, and they had a program for during the summer. Well, it was during the season too, but Rangers would pay for you to go to school. So I was reading, I think it was the New York Post one day, and I saw this advertisement in the back of the Post for this Superior truck driving school. And I'd always wanted to drive a truck. So here I am, this NHL player, who's going to drive a truck. So I called the Rangers up and I said, I'm going to school. And they're all excited, thinking I'm going to go to Harvard Business School or something like that. I'm going to truck driving school. It's funny. I went for 3 weeks to the truck driving school, learned how to drive a truck. At one point, I think the instructors kind of favored me a little bit, but they came to me at one point, wrote in the yard, learn how to back up the trucks. And the guy comes and goes, "What are you doing here? We know who you are." And I said, I was having fun. So I learned how to drive the truck and never drove it again after that. But it was something like the ballroom dance. Like, if you're going to do it right, go to school, learn how to do it. And it's fun doing it. But it is funny when you have that, once you start doing those things, like you're talking about the training, here's another example where once you started doing those things, you realize it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, it sounds like a big deal at the time, but it's, it's fun.
Yeah.
You're some more things, right? Yeah,
definitely. It definitely was a workup. There was what we call a workup process. In the military, we call them workups. Right. In the dance world, I don't know what they call them, but it took a while for me to get comfortable, and you build the relationship with your instructor. And in my case, my instructor was also married to a ballroom dance instructor, so husband and wife. So Sonia was her name, Ricardo was his name. And at some point, Sonia determined that I needed some extra help. So Ricardo was pretty much there for most of the lessons as well.
That's funny.
It was great fun. And we kind of lost contact because of COVID. I was going to do it again this year, which would have been this past August. But kind of lost contact because of COVID and all that. So we'll see what happens down the road. But getting back to the comfort zone thing. So giant step outside of my comfort zone. But what happens when people do that is their comfort zones expand. And that's really what you want to do.
Yeah, totally. I've been so lucky to do this stuff, come down, like even getting your machine there, the wind tunnel. I think I told you the story too. I'll never forget because there's like 5 other guys or 4 other guys there. I think they were all SEALs or ex-military.
Yeah.
You asked, I think the instructor asked who's going to go first, and I popped my hand up right away, and because my logic was I don't want to sit there and watch these other guys do great at it. I've never done it before, so I popped. Now I may not. When I was younger, I may not have popped my hand up right away. Maybe more timid, like just sitting there waiting. But like you said, after doing a number of things, you feel like, no, I'm going to jump up and do it right away. Because it's that stuff that goes on in your mind, like, oh God, am I going to make a fool of myself? Well, so what? Even if you do, isn't that the point too, though? Even if you do fall down and make a mistake and make a fool of yourself, you're still going to be fine. You just get up and do it again, right?
Yeah, well, that almost goes back to the list theory that you talked about earlier. Rather than sit there and watch. Rather than you sit there and have that anxiety for 5 or 6 people before you, you're like, I'm going to unload this anxiety first thing,
Yeah, totally. And it's kind of like it gives you like power too. You get it done, and then you got a whole bunch of other things to do in the day, but you're feeling good. Like, okay, I did the thing that I was least looking forward to doing, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the only real competition you had there was Frank Simonetti, who had flown before, by the way. Yeah. So he was kind of a ringer.
Yeah, Frank's a former Boston Bruin, so he was just him and I, former NHL players. The rest of the guys, it was funny watching you, and the other guys were coming in randomly on their own and doing it too. It's really interesting to watch and the things they can do. But it's kind of funny. Like when I was on Survivor too, it was the same thing. It's like I remember they dropped us off on the island. We're in Fiji. And I'll never forget feeling myself, holy smokes, I can't believe I'm actually, I just get dropped off on an island in Fiji. And now I got to go figure out how to win this game. So
how to live.
Yeah. It was really, I think that's the thing, right? It's like after we talk about this stuff, I think if people don't have to do big things like join the military like you do, they don't have to go on Survivor, or they don't have to play in the NHL, whatever it is. They don't have to take ballroom dancing. It's just things that make, that you're making your life better by doing those things that you're sitting there thinking, geez, I wish I've got this bucket list. And I want to do it. Like I've never believed in bucket lists. I always think to myself, to me, a bucket list is that something comes up with a list of something to do once you're told that you're going to die, right? I mean, that's, the movie bucket. Right. Right. Like think to myself, no, why am I going to wait until somebody tells me I'm going to die? Like I've got to do it. I want to do it now, right?
Yeah, no, totally agree. And a lot of these things really expand your 360 degree vision. So, ballroom dancing, it introduced me to new people. It taught me new things about my body. It taught me that I think I was 53 or 52 then. And it taught me that 52-year-olds shouldn't be doing cartwheels, which was part of what I was doing there.
Oh, is that right? Doing cartwheels?
Yeah. Just one. So, but having never done a cartwheel in my life, now I'm going to throw it into my routine there. And it was my idea. It was a kooky idea, but you want to stand out. You want to be different. But you challenge yourself with these different things. And it doesn't matter what it is. A buddy of mine who retired from the military and had a pretty adventurous career like I did, he opened a lawnmower repair shop. He grew up mowing grass, and he just likes lawnmowers and mowing grass. And
right. And that's the key thing, right? Because most military, think about military, they're not going to open up a lawnmower repair shop, right? But he had the courage to say, no, I don't really care what everybody else thinks. I'm not trying to prove a point. I just want to fix lawnmowers, right? That's what I want to do. Yeah. That's part of the battle too, right? Is like realizing you don't have to fit in. It's not like you have to go on a different path, but you got to go on the path that you want to go in. And if it's different from everybody else, then that's fine. If it's the same path as everybody else, then that's fine too.
Yeah, for sure. You got to find your comfort zone, and like we said, grow it, expand it, get outside of it a little bit. I think in this world there's 3 types of people: pioneers, migrators, and settlers. Pioneers are always looking for that new thing. They're out there getting after it, and a lot of entrepreneurs. They have that pioneering spirit. Right. And then migrators are people who are looking for the next thing, or they like growth. But they still like that security and that stability. And then settlers, hey, don't mess with anything. Everything's in order. 9 to 5. Don't show up early. I don't stay late. And there's, that's fine too. The world needs pioneers, the world needs migrators, and the world needs settlers.
That is the key, right? I was just going to say, like, with a settler, like, it maybe sounds like a bad connotation, but if that you're happy with that life and you want, and that you're willing, there's more out there. I think the thing is just, you got to know there's more out there. If you decide that you don't want to go get it, that you just want to stay where you're at, that's okay. And there's a lot of people, I'm sure there's settlers that are great fathers and mothers that are raising kids and doing some great things. It's just, they're not really that adventurous people going out and doing new stuff. So,
yeah. And your ability to influence, if you're a settler, your ability to influence others, I would say is reduced significantly, as opposed to a migrator or a pioneer. A pioneer can have great influence, great positive influence on others.
And don't you think too, though, that, like, let's say you grow to be a settler and you're 60 years old, it's tougher now to change that and go be a migrator or a pioneer, right? But at
that age, it's probably impossible to change it. Right. So you're settled, you're set in your ways.
Yeah. Well, you and I are probably pretty set in our ways too, but we're set in our ways being pioneers.
That's right. That's exactly right. I've settled being a pioneer. I like that.
Going through all these like this learning stuff going, man, I realize how stubborn I am. Like, I've gotten into this intermittent fasting now, and people have told me about intermittent fasting for years, and I was like, no, I'm not doing intermittent fasting. I know what I'm doing. And then I think I've got that inside of me where I have to convince myself it's my idea almost. So now I've come back and realized, okay, I'm going to try intermittent fasting, and I love it. So it's but like I said, like, for me, all this time, this talk of the True Grit Life stuff, and it really made me look back at who I am and how I react to things. And that's the one thing I do notice that, I don't just get easily swayed, right? Like, if I guess you'd call that stubbornness, but I don't get easily swayed. If somebody comes up with an idea, it really has to be proved to me, like even little things like eating sweet potatoes. Well, for years I said, I'm not eating sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes never going to go in my mouth. Well, now I have a sweet potato every day, right? Because I realize it's good for me. So I think it's great to have that stubbornness that you're not going to quit. You're not just going to give in to something. But at the same time, that's what, like, we talk about having that plan A, but you need to deviate in plan A. You're still going to the same place. But so it's that fine line between having enough stubbornness, but being able to understand, okay, I need to stow the stubbornness right now and kind of change the path here a little bit.
Yeah, well, I would say, our time is limited. And if I'm going to invest my time and my energy and my effort in something, it's got to be worthy. It's got to be worthwhile. So that stubbornness for me is just, hey, prove to me why I need to spend time, effort, energy on that particular thing. Sweet potatoes, I can tell you, that's easy, man. That's science, that's medicine. And, you can prove it that way. Here's, I'll go one step further. Last March, right when all the COVID madness started, I did some labs, had my lab work done, and my cholesterol had been ticking up slowly over the years, not to an alarming danger level, but to a level where it's like, man, I can control that. I can do something about that. So I gave up all meat, all cheese, all fish, all chicken. I gave up all the stuff that they tell you contributes to high cholesterol for 2.5 months. In 2.5 months, my cholesterol dropped 70 points.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I can control that, and I just had to, now, and I would say slightly more energized and slightly more alert. But for me, for us, right, it's all about those labs. Those, I'm not benching 400. I never benched 400. Actually, what was my max? I think back in the day, maybe 275. I'm not benching 275 anymore, but I'm checking my cholesterol. I'm checking my creatine. I'm checking my glucose.
Right. Yes, because I saw a video on YouTube. I was researching this whole fasting thing, and it's interesting to say that too. Had this one doctor on talking about how, food, when, like, years ago, before there was grocery stores and refrigerators and everything like that, people ate food just to survive. Like, he actually said the two things we need as a society to survive are food and sex. Well, that's pretty good, right? Sex is to reproduce, and the food is to survive. And we would actually, without even knowing it, we would fast, right? Because food wasn't always around. You had food, you ate it, and then you went for periods of time without food. And now with the advent of putting salt on foods and sugar and oils, we now more eat. A lot of people that are having problems with their weight, they're eating more for comfort and enjoyment. That's not what food was initially meant to be for. It was just to survive. So it's like you said, like, you had the ability to change your plan to lower your cholesterol. That's really the key, right? I mean, with all these things, whether it's addictions to food or alcohol or drugs or whatever, it's, finding that way to change that plan. So.
Yeah, for sure. When I present Elevate Your Leadership, my leadership offering, nutrition is one of the things that I talk about as a key component of leadership.
Yeah, really, I was pleasantly surprised to hear you say that. I didn't realize that, but that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's a key component of leadership. Both, you model the behavior, and you're a better leader if you're properly nourished. But then you can encourage your teammates to do the same. But in putting that together, and in my preparation, I discovered, or I came across a statistic that 70% of Americans suffer from chronic disease due to diet. So another way to say that is 70% of chronic disease in America could be prevented due to diet. And yours truly was guilty of that, with my cholesterol ticking up a little bit. And so it was so easy for me to modify those eating habits and see the result almost instantaneously.
And don't you think both physically and mentally, once you have gone past like this 30-day mark or something like that, where you have changed that, now your body, like you are less likely to want to eat the bad foods, or less likely to want to put the salt in, because now you've retrained your body and mind now to realize I don't need those things anymore, right? Yeah,
there's a few different theories out there. They say it takes 21 days to create a habit or 21 days to break a habit. I've also heard that that's not true. There's a process that happens mentally or psychologically more so than anything else, and it just depends on your mental stamina. For me, that's probably the 21-day thing. I don't know, but I think that it's very important I can do anything for 30 days. I think it's important for people to experiment, for people to say, I'm going to quit drinking, or I'm going to quit eating this, or I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to do whatever for a period of 30 days. And in my case with the meat, I didn't have any, day 2, day 3, I was fine. I didn't have any problem as long as I had healthy alternatives readily available. When I hit the drive-through, which is not very often, but if and when I hit the drive-through, it's because I didn't plan. I don't have healthy alternatives readily available. I've got limited time, and I just got to go get something now. And BK, here I come, Whopper with cheese. So.
And that's danger. Once you try it again, right, then you're like, oh God, I'm going to want this like tomorrow again, or I want it in a week again, right? Because now I've kind of breaking away from that healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, what I've done now, so I was cold turkey, so to speak, for that 2.5 month period. Had my labs, saw the result, and so now, if I go to a barbecue, someone's having a cookout, I'll eat the burger, I'll eat the pork or whatever. I have just reduced now significantly. I used to be a ribeye a week. Now I'm a ribeye every couple months.
I do that Kentucky Fried Chicken story.
Yeah, you did. That's fun.
Terrible. And now I can happily say, I have zero desire to, I can, every once in a while I drive by McDonald's and I get a little hankering for one of those filet of fish sandwiches they have there, which is probably got about 2,000 calories in it. But
yeah.
Well, listen, that's been a fantastic talk. And I know, especially now during this time where people are maybe changing careers or trying to start something else. And I think just in general, it's tough. I talked to a lot of people who are just mentally, they're drained from just being at home all the time and going through all the, the talk on the news and all that kinds of stuff. And I think it's important to just realize that, like you said, that planning, and doing your list and just, realizing, like you said, you're not perfect and you're life is not fair, and you're going to be able to fight through things. So great job by you again.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. There's going to be setbacks along the way, as we kind of indicated. And so don't kill yourself over a setback, just, hey, I had a setback. Time to drive on, time to drive forward. We're going to get this done.
Progress, not perfection, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Good deal. All right. Well, we're going to do this again next Monday. We'll have another topic there. I'm really enjoying this stuff, and hopefully we're passing on some good information to our viewers out there too. So thank you, sir. And again, if anyone wants to get to Bob, robertpizzini.com, right? You got that up there this time. So
yeah, you can learn about my leadership offerings, my team building events, my corporate events, coaching, speaking, all the above. And I love doing it. I enjoy it. And Tom, I love chatting with you. Thanks, brother.
Great talking to you too. I tell you what, guys, being around the military, guys, if they can do what like you're doing, Robert, take their experience that they've learned from the military and transfer that over to everyday life, whether it's relationships or business or whatever, it's really pretty amazing stuff. So, all right, guys, we'll see you next Monday.
See you later.
Bob.